It was finally Mike's chance to shine. He had spent night after night practicing, not just in basketball, but in just about every other sport the other kids played. Basketball was what he was good at, though, and he knew it. It didn't matter that his older brother Larry constantly beat him in pickup games. It didn't even matter that he was only 5'10" and couldn't dunk the ball yet. What mattered is that he was there to try out for varsity with his friend Leroy, and he believed in himself. Except, of course, that those things did matter to the varsity coach at Laney High School that day in 1978. Mike was, after all, one of about 50 young men trying for one of only 15 available roster spots, and no matter how hard he hustled or how well he shot, there simply wasn't room on the team for a 5'10" sophomore who couldn't dunk. His friend Leroy, 6'7", landed a spot on the varsity team, and Mike was sent home feeling the bitter sting of disappointment. Mike would later recall that it was embarrassing not to make the team, and in fact, he went on that night to lock himself in his room and cry. If his friends had made the team and his brother was so much better than him, was there any point in even going on? Hi, I'm Garvin DeShazer, and this is your Daily Inspiration. When Mike pulled himself together after that crushing experience at the age of 15, he gave himself entirely to improving at the game of basketball. He was determined that he would get one of the coveted varsity spots the following year, and so he put his whole heart into his performance on the junior varsity team. That year, he managed to put up multiple 40-point games, attracting crowds that were unheard of at the time for a junior varsity game. He worked hard, worked out constantly, and did it all with a chip on his shoulder. In his words, "Whenever I was working out and got tired and figured I ought to stop, I'd close my eyes and see that list on the locker room door without my name on it. That usually got me going again." In the summer of 1979, Mike's hard work, combined with a 4-inch growth spurt, paid off, and he earned his spot on Laney High's varsity squad. That year, he would go on to become their best player, averaging more than 20 points a game. For many, having achieved their goals, this would be the time to relax and enjoy the sensation of victory. But of course, Michael Jordan was no ordinary player. In his senior year, he led Laney High to a 19-4 record, then on to a state championship. Finally, he was named a McDonald's All-American player. Michael played for 3 seasons under Coach Dean Smith at the University of North Carolina and was a member of the Tar Heels national championship team in 1982. Throughout all this time, his commitment to improving and his intense work ethic never wavered, and he became truly unrecognizable when compared to the 5'10" sophomore of not so long before. His star truly began to rise when he was selected as the 3rd overall draft pick by the Chicago Bulls in 1984. His prolific scoring and ability to slam dunk the ball even from the free throw line wowed crowds and earned him the status of a league star. Today, he is credited as being a main factor in popularizing the sport of basketball around the world in the 1980s and 90s. Michael Jordan's basketball career contains unprecedented accolades and records, and he inspired an entire generation of players that have since followed in his footsteps. To list all of his accomplishments and contributions to the sport would take far longer than the scope of this podcast. What's most important to remember about Michael Jordan is not merely his legacy as perhaps the greatest professional basketball player of all time, but rather the grit and determination of a 15-year-old boy in the face of what must have seemed impossible odds on that day in 1978. Taking his disappointment and turning it into the stuff of legend is arguably what makes Jordan's story truly inspirational. What moment of darkness do you need to get through today? Have you experienced a setback or a disappointment that you just can't seem to see beyond? If, like Michael Jordan, you pushed yourself past your limits, what might you be able to achieve someday? What hidden greatness could you discover within yourself if you choose to let your adversity motivate your tenacity? What unrecognized power can you access if you're just willing to double down on your dreams? Thanks for listening. May your day, this day, be filled with perseverance and with love, laughter, and infinite joy. Bye for now.
Hi, this is Scott Sampson, producer for the Daily Inspirations podcast. Thank you so much for listening. Want more inspiration in your life? Check out our blog for weekend stories of hope and uplifting news. If you've been enjoying the podcast, we hope you'll take a moment today and rate and review us and tell everyone in your circle so they can get the same inspiration that we hope you've received today. We have big plans for this podcast and we want you to be part of it. Visit dailyinspirationsandmeditations.com to contact us with your own inspirational stories or just to say hi.